just have one of these golf pens.
I need to go next to the upper.
All right, guys, so thank you so much for coming to the workshop. The hope is that we'll start doing this a little more often, so definitely look forward to future workshops as well. Like all of these workshops, though, the goal is always that you'll be able to pass the content assessment. In order for you to do that, it's really important that we are participating 100%, which means you're taking notes, answering questions. Also, if you have questions, please make sure you ask those questions, and I will do my best to answer them as well. But this should last about 35, 40 minutes, and it'll be pretty interactive as well. All right, so the thing I always like to do when I go to a playlist is start with the objectives. And so I just copy and pasted the list of the objectives for each of the playlists. And so kind of think about these objectives as we go through this workshop. And so the very first objective for DNA to protein is to compare the structures of DNA and RNA in order to identify similarities and differences. Okay. And so after we finish this first section, you're going to just basically record the answer to this objective or describe the differences between DNA and RNA. So kind of just keep that in mind as we do this.
All right, you better catch it.
I really like this image a lot because this image really encompasses everything that you need to know on the DNA to protein playlist. We start up here with the DNA. We go through the process of transcription to make RNA, and then we go through the process of translation to turn that RNA into proteins. And this image will make a lot more sense to you by the end of the workshop, but also kind of keep this image in your mind as you go through this content. Okay. So let's start out with DNA and RNA and kind of compare them side by side. So here we have DNA, here we have RNA. Look at the pictures right now and try to identify some similarities and differences between DNA and RNA. What are some things that stand out to you guys? Maybe just take a couple seconds to think it over. What are some differences you notice between the picture of the DNA and the RNA? There you go, Jackie.
Can you finish this?
Yeah, that's one of the really important differences. Notice how DNA has 2 strands, RNA only has 1. So we say DNA is double-stranded, RNA is single-stranded. Okay? What other differences do you notice? Really pay attention to the details.
For me, it's true because I mean, like, it can be negative too.
If you think that's true, then
It's pretty easy.
Anything you guys notice that's different about the letters in the DNA versus the RNA?
Or like, can you open my two as soon as I request it? Which is like two.
Yes, did everyone hear what Alondra said? DNA has the D, RNA has the R. And this is the type of sugar that's in the DNA and the type of sugar that's in the RNA. DNA has a deoxyribose, that's the D in DNA. The RNA has ribose, which is the R in RNA. And so that's the other big difference between DNA and RNA. And there's one more difference when you look at the bases. Can you notice anything different about the bases in RNA versus the bases in DNA? Yeah, so instead of a T in DNA, which is thymine, we have a U, which is uracil. Okay? So these are the 3 big differences between DNA and RNA. And so let's take some notes about that right now. So the first big difference that we talked about, DNA is double-stranded. There's 2 parts to it, 2 sides to it. RNA is single-stranded. There's only 1 side to it. So make sure you're writing that into your notes. So make sure you write that into your notes right here. All right. Do you need a pen or pencil? All right, great. The second big difference, like Jackie said, DNA uses thymine or T, so you'll see some T bases inside the DNA. There's no T's in RNA. RNA actually uses something called U or uracil, and so you'll see there's some U's in this RNA. That's the second big difference. Record that in your notes as well. And the last big difference, like Alondra pointed out, the sugar in DNA is deoxyribose. That's why there's D's on these sugars. And the sugar in RNA is ribose. That's why these are R's. So these are the three big differences between DNA and RNA. So definitely know these like the back of your hand. Know the key differences because there'll be several questions on the content assessment asking you about these differences. You guys all get that done? All right. This is just some extra information, but this is a kind of a chemical formula of the deoxyribose sugar, the ribose sugar. Notice that the only difference between the sugars is the addition of this little O here in the ribose. That O, or the oxygen, is missing in the deoxyribose. It's not something you need to know, just that's how these sugars are different.
Here was wrote here.
All right. So what I want you guys now to do is we have some DNA right here. This is a practice problem. I want you to draw what the RNA would look like in your notes. And so draw the structure of the RNA and just make sure you label the different parts. And then put how it would be different. So in RNA, we know that there's an A base. But like for example, we know there's not T bases, so draw what that T base would be. All right. Also keep in mind that the sugar in DNA is a deoxyribose, so draw what the correct sugar would be for the sugar in RNA. So finish drawing it, but make it for the RNA.
Not right now. What playlist starts?
Okay.
DNA protein. Did you pause it? Oh no, like yeah. Just be
This is one mistake on my part, but you actually want to get the base that matches the A. So this A actually matches with a U in RNA, so make sure you correctly label that. So A's go with U's, G's go with C's, T's go with A's, T's go with G's. So make sure you put the correct base that matches it, sorry. So it's not an exact copy, you almost want to get the one that matches that one. If that makes sense.
No, what's undergraduate
So you should be adding the extra bases in. We know that A matches with a T, a U. We know that G matches with a C base or a cytosine. We know that T matches with an A base. And so on. So once again, the key thing is just illustrating the differences. We have uracils instead of thymines, and we have deoxyribose instead of ribose. And the last thing I want you guys to know about DNA and RNA, this is more of a review of something from the DNA structure of DNA foods, is that just remember this vocabulary word, nucleotides. Because both DNA and RNA are made up of nucleotides. A nucleotide is just a vocabulary word that refers to all three parts of the DNA, the phosphates, the sugars, and the bases. And so this is a nucleotide right here because it has a phosphate, sugar, and a base. And so we have DNA and RNA are made up of nucleotides. So just know that vocabulary word. That refers to the combination of the phosphate, sugar, and base together. All right, moving on. We're going to do a multiple choice practice problem because I think it's always a good idea to practice multiple choice questions. So The first one, let's see here. The question is asking, the molecules that contain genetic information of living organisms are DNA and RNA. So these are the key words, DNA and RNA. Which of the following is a major difference? This is another key word in the question. We want to talk about what's different, not what's similar, what's different. All right, so read these different answer choices and try to find the right answer for that question. So let's go through these answers. It says DNA is a nucleic acid, RNA is a protein. We haven't really talked about nucleic acids or proteins at all, so that's probably not the right answer. So we can probably eliminate that choice. Nucleic acid is also just another word for nucleotide. But we also know that RNA is also a nucleotide, it's not a protein. Okay, so that's definitely the wrong answer. DNA creates proteins, RNA creates enzymes. Okay, so once again, we haven't really talked that much about enzymes, so I think this must not be the right answer choice. We can probably eliminate that. DNA contains uracil, RNA contains thymine. This seems like it might be familiar, but I think it's actually the other way around. I think DNA contains thymine and RNA contains uracil. So this is like a trick answer. So make sure you eliminate this choice because that one's not the right answer. And the last answer is D, which is our correct answer. DNA is double, a double helix or double stranded. RNA is single helix or single stranded. We know this is one of the key differences, so the answer choice is D. So next question, number 4. What is the strand of RNA that is transcribed from DNA with the sequence AGA-TGC-ATC? And the key word for this one is transcribed, and you'll know what this word means more in a little bit. But what that really means is that you're not going to just match it directly. What you want to do is you want to get the bases that pair up with each of these. So think about, you know that A matches up with U, G matches up with C, A matches up with U, and so put in the bases that actually pair up with those bases, so that way you get the right answer. But spend some time filling in the bases that pair up with those to figure out what the right answer is going to be. All right, it looks like most of you guys have this as well. So you want to match it up. Because it says transcribed, you want to match them up. U, A, C, G. If we already have enough information, UCU. Okay, the only one that says starts with UCU is A. So A is our correct answer. So let's go ahead and move on. So we have now finished the first objective. We're going to move on to the second objective. Before we do that, though, I actually want you to take some time and write in your notes the differences and similarities between DNA and RNA. So use that objective. Kind of treat the objective as like a question. Like turn this into a question. So like if I was to turn this objective into what are the similarities and differences between DNA and RNA, I want you to write those down in your margin. So in your notes, write down what are the differences between DNA and RNA. So what are the similarities and differences between DNA and RNA? And just write that in your margin. So that way you can kind of use this objective like a quiz question. So go back through your notes if you need to, but you want to write in what are the differences between DNA and RNA, and use this objective like a quiz question. Not sure if they are. Okay.
The size of the ladder. The bases. So like if you decide to play everything
Nice, like what you guys have so far. You need to go back and check those notes. That's the key one though, as far as the differences between DNA and RNA.
molecules from
Looks
this?
good, guys. Really like what I see being written down. The three big differences are
Since I gave you this.
thymine. It was talking about DNA versus RNA. We're talking about thymine or T.
What would you pair it with?
RNA is uracil
If you have
or
this
U.
strand, what would you pair it with?
DNA is double-stranded. RNA is single-stranded.
Good.
And then the last one is the sugar. So DNA has deoxyribose, which is the D in DNA. RNA has ribose, which is the R in RNA. Okay.
Can I just skip that one?
Lots of similarities as well. They both have adenine, they both have guanine, they both have cytosine. But these are the three really important differences.